welcome to Nature Against the Noise. We're talking about the awakening process, what Sarah experienced in her body and how it changed her life. So, so do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Sarah, and what you do?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, I'm Sarah Evans. I'm based in Sheffield in Northern England in the UK, and I feel like I'm a great many things at this point. I started off as a yoga teacher and meditation guide, but through my own spiritual awakening process, I have now transitioned into mainly being a Akashic Records reader and also spiritual mentor. So spiritual awakening and helping people through this process is a big part of what I do, and so I was really excited for this opportunity to share my story.
Yeah, lovely. So, can you tell us what was happening in your life at the time when you first awakened?
Well, okay. I put notes down about awakening because I feel like there's been like several moments through my life, so it's a little bit more complicated. There is a major awakening that happened during the COVID pandemic, but prior to that,
Yeah,
I've always been like a bit like spiritually aware and tapped in, and as a child I would see stuff like clairvoyantly and I just didn't understand and it freaked me out mostly. And then I discovered yoga and meditation in the early 2000s, and I think yoga and meditation really unlocked a great deal for me, and I right from the start I absolutely loved it and it really helped. I had a lot of generalized anxiety as a teen. And so yoga, like getting like into my body, like really, really massively helped to
yeah,
ease my nervous system. And for me, yoga has always been a deeply spiritual practice. And so through the art of daily yoga practice, I definitely felt like I was experiencing stuff and having like these like beautiful moments, but I didn't really understand what was happening
yeah,
until fast forward to my major awakening moment. I did like throughout my early years, I dabbled in magic and witchcraft and manifestation. And I could feel that there was so much there, and like I was having a lot of evidentiary experiences where I was just like, yeah, this is real, things are happening, but I didn't really understand exactly what was happening until COVID came
yeah.
along and
Yeah.
shut me down completely and led me into this path.
So
Thank
you
God
were
for
shut
that.
down completely. So do you think you was in a nervous system state of freeze where you couldn't move and
Yes, yes. So COVID came
found
along.
it difficult to function?
So I'll explain a little bit. So obviously the pandemic of 2020, I caught
Yeah.
COVID on Friday the 13th of March, and that was
Oh,
really early on, right? And
yeah,
I got
yeah.
very, very seriously ill. Um, it was horrible. I don't know how much you want to get into this, but basically, I had double pneumonia and I was very seriously ill. And I
Oh,
went
bless
in
you.
hospital, in the ambulance to hospital. But at that time, because I was so young, they didn't do anything for me. And they said, no, obviously they were overloaded. And so they sent me home. And I did have so I just got more and more ill with this double pneumonia at home. And it got to the point where one night
Yeah.
I literally had a near-death experience because I couldn't breathe. Essentially, I just absolutely couldn't breathe, and I was
Oh, bless you.
like it was borderline that I could have transition to the other side at that moment. But I had this near-death experience where around my bedside there was like a light, and around my bedside were all of my grandparents who are
Oh,
no longer alive, and they were all around my bedside holding my hand. I'm getting chills as I say this.
Oh, bless
And they
you.
were, and it was like I was sitting up and the light was on, like I had like a night light on, and I couldn't sleep obviously because I couldn't breathe, and I was like desperately ill. And my grandparents were there, and it felt, I mean, at the time, I understood, I kind of processed it as like a hallucination.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I've later come to realize, yeah, it was definitely a near-death experience. But they helped me, and they helped me. They said, tell my husband that I need to call 999 again. So I kind of was like, okay, I'm gonna like,
Okay,
and so basically we did call, and people came around, and I got the antibiotics that I needed, and I had broad spectrum antibiotics at home. Again, there was the hospital's overloaded, so there's nothing they could do, but they were treating me at home. And fortunately, I pulled through, and that was all well and
good.
good. But
Yes.
major but I pulled through and I could breathe, but I never got better. And I went into what we describe as long COVID, or
Right.
also I was diagnosed with MECFS, which is chronic fatigue syndrome. And so, to
Okay.
your point, I was bedbound, and I was so fatigued that I couldn't. There was days where I couldn't turn over in bed, and I couldn't open my eyes. So I was completely shut down. And
Yeah.
talking about the
Shut
nervous
in,
system
shut
as
down.
well, I also experienced POTS. I don't know if you ever heard of this, but POTS is basically where your autonomic
What's that?
nervous
Sorry.
so POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Nice and it's a little complicated, but a lot of people with
Okay.
ME/CFS, a lot of people with long COVID also have POTS. And POTS basically means that your body is unable to process as it usually would, and your autonomic nervous system, which controls pretty much everything in terms of your how your body's functioning and
Everything.
self-regulation. So regulating
Yeah.
breathing, regulating heartbeat, heart rate, regulating, your sweating, and so basically mine was just completely out of whack. So my autonomic nervous system was just completely messed up, and so yeah, nervous system wise, I was completely out of regulation and into a state of like almost complete shutdown. Um, so yes,
Yeah.
so through that moment, when I couldn't open my eyes and it was just me, eyes closed, and that's when I kind of went into the spiritual awakening, for real. And
Is that how you
I think
began to regulate then? Is that how you began to regulate?
yes, yes. So a part of my self-healing process, because to be fair, to be very frank, the traditional Western medicine didn't really have much for me, and I did have to heal my own self from this state.
Yes.
And don't want to, if
Mm.
anyone's listening who are doctors and things like that, I don't mean to be dismissive, but there's a lot
No.
that Western medicine currently don't fully understand, or they don't treat us
Mhm.
holistically. It's treating the holistic whole body, which is what helps you
Yeah.
in this kind of situation. Where was I? Yes. So
Uh,
during this process of being bedbound and incredibly ill, I had a baby as well, which is a whole other topic.
oh, did you?
But my so
She-
basically I couldn't, obviously I could not care for her, so my husband cared for her, and me through all of
yeah.
this. But what I did, obviously with my background in yoga and meditation, what I decided to do as I was laying there, semi-conscious, not really able to do anything else but listen, is I started to listen to lots and lots of guided meditations and like healing
Okay.
frequency music and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And so I basically got into this state where I was like meditating like 10 to 12 times a day, like almost all day. And this is what really helped to crack me wide open.
Yeah. I found them helpful myself with my healing. I think it was Brian, I forget his name, but he has rejuvenating meditations, and I used to go to sleep listening to them and wake up feeling better. Because like you are, I experienced lots of pain, and I didn't understand it either. So obviously, so how long did it take for you to get out of the freeze state once you used the meditations?
Yeah, I mean, it's effectively, in chronic fatigue terminology, what I was doing was learning to pace. And so it was pacing via these radical rest moments. Like I started to unpick it. Obviously, the long COVID community was very, very active online, and thank goodness for that, because
Yeah,
I got so many tools direct from them. And I also, through all of this, I found a lot of recovery stories from MECFS in particular,
that's good.
chronic fatigue, which helped to kind of unpick what was happening. And honestly, if I'd followed my doctor's advice, I would still be ill right now. I'll be frank and fair with you. I would.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, but I was very in a lot of pain and really struggling. But I think that the fundamental thing that got me through all of this was feeling like I had to get well for my daughter.
Yes, for your
I had a
daughter.
mother. I could not admit defeat and say, oh, this is me for life, this is it. No, I had a very, very strong core belief that I was going to get better and I was going to get better for her, right?
Yeah. So
And yeah,
basically, you made sure that a lot of people tend to stay in a victim mindset, and that wasn't you. You got out
right.
of that mindset, didn't you? Completely, obviously, to be able to recover.
Yeah, and I spoke to so many people online who were stuck in that mindset, and there's so many people that I help now, that still stay stuck in that. But I just could not. Um, that was just not my not where I could be at. And I guess one of my podcasts is the Long COVID Hope podcast, and there's a clue there in the name, hope. It's like
Yeah,
I held on to that hope that I was going to get out of this, and I did manage to. Um, but yeah, it was a gradual process over 2 years, that I kind of unpicked this and sorted myself out. I healed my gut to microbiome. That was a big part of the process. I
yeah,
went gluten free. The gluten was very triggering for me. I did lots of different things in order to heal, and yeah, a massive part of this was the very regular meditations, just getting your nervous system into the parasympathetic state, which is
yeah.
essential for healing. We call it rest and digest, but yeah, this is the state you need to be in for your body to be like, I'm safe, I can heal. And that was like fundamental to my recovery.
Yeah, you sort of have to convince yourself that you're safe, don't you? Even though we don't live in a world that promotes safety, you do
Mhm.
have to um, talk to yourself a lot, don't you? So, so
Yeah.
did the world feel clearer, sharper, and stranger, or more intense while during your healing process?
I mean, the world felt very odd during the pandemic for probably many people,
Yeah, it was.
right? I mean, being housebound and bedbound, like my world became incredibly small actually, to just my room or just the house. And yes, things did feel strange. And at the same time, paradoxically, as I was kind of things were reducing in the physical, it was all opening up spiritually. And those
Yeah,
grandparents that I had at my bedside when I had this near-death experience, they started to talk to me, right? And clairaudiently, I was receiving messages, I was hearing them in their accents, that how they sounded in life, and we would have a conversation, and it was going back and forth, and then through this process, that they felt so present and so there for me.
Yeah.
And like during this, like I'd been told as a child, all through my life, I'd been told that I had this a really active imagination. Like, oh, Sarah, she just has a really active imagination. But like, and so I was kind of like, I was doing this and I was having these amazing conversations with my grandparents on the other side. And I kept thinking, am I imagining this? Is this my imagination or what's going
Yeah.
on? And it got to the point when, I was still recovering from long COVID, but it got to the point where I was just like, I just need to know. And so I got on, like, I think I was on Facebook. I was like looking for local like mediums and like clairvoyants and whatever. And I booked a session with a medium. And you know what happened? So I sat down, it was on WhatsApp, it was still during the pandemic. It was via WhatsApp video, and she was just like, so your grandfather's here and he's saying really clearly, it's not your imagination, we're talking to you.
Oh,
Like, how
oh, that
amazing
was
is that?
lovely to have it confirmed. Yeah, so you felt a
Right,
lot
right.
better.
So it's fascinating, isn't it? Like during, what was in many ways the worst time of my life. It was a really hard, really traumatizing, difficult time. At the same time, it blew me wide open and
Yeah,
completely like realigned and pivoted my life to what I do now. So I'm very, as wild as it sounds, I'm very grateful for all of this, because it's led me where I needed to go, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's led you to your purpose, basically, hasn't it? And you're helping others. So, did it
Right.
change your relationships as well with your husband? And
Yeah. Yeah, relationships have been interesting, and I feel like the more spiritual awakened I am, it's been a process, because I've noticed, okay, there's other people around who obviously are not going through what I'm going through.
yeah,
Right. And there's definitely been friendships that have just like fallen away, and things that that just like, obviously there's being in alignment and being not in alignment, and so things that are not in alignment have just gradually like fallen from view
yeah,
in my life. Like nothing has been hugely dramatic in terms of this, but there's just been like a slow process of like finding like like magnetically finding, attracting people who do understand and get it.
yes,
And then
yeah,
the people that don't are just kind of like fading from view a little bit. My
yeah.
husband, it's interesting for my husband because he is spiritually aware, but he doesn't completely get what I'm doing. And
No,
that's fine. That's fine.
but you're still together, so that's all right then.
Right. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So,
So,
and he's been an absolute saint and a legend through my chronic illness, and he's the most hands-on father you could possibly imagine to our now 7-year-old daughter. So,
oh,
like
she's seven.
he's a ledge, and
Oh,
he's supported me as I've gone full time into this spiritual healing, self-employment, and yeah, yeah, we're still together,
oh, yeah, that's
fortunately.
lovely. So you clearly became more sensitive to other people's behavior, energy, and intentions then, uh, after all of this, clearly.
I'm laughing so hard because but yeah, like that's understatement of the century. I've come to realize about my skills and abilities as a psychic medium. I'm clairvoyant and clairaudient, and I will psychically receive stuff in advance of anything. So yes, I have become very sensitive and very aware. And I
Mm,
also help people through Akashic. Do you understand what the Akashic records are? That's a big
No,
part of what I
no,
do.
no.
Yeah, actually, it's an interesting story to like part of my opening up to talk about that for a moment because I discovered the Akashic Records through a podcast as well.
Okay.
It's 11:11 right now. So
Oh
so yeah, so I was so this was in the spring of getting better. So 2 years into long COVID, and I was doing much better. Oh, the microdosing happened as well, but maybe we'll get back to that in a second.
yeah.
Because
Okay.
you said you were interested in that story.
Yeah.
But basically, I was listening to a completely random podcast that has nothing spiritual about it. It's now called the Queer Family Podcast.
Okay.
And I was listening to this, and it was a speaker in New York, and she was saying that. She's an Akashic Records reader, and she just started to talk a little bit about it, and something just went like, like big alert, like what is this? And I just immediately started like looking it up. What is this? And I actually messaged the person that was on that podcast because I was just like,
Yeah.
I feel like fire into my feet. I feel like for some reason, this concept is really important to me. And I'd
Okay.
never heard of it before. And so she recommended, so she studied with Linda Howe, and she recommended the Linda Howe book. So I immediately downloaded it on my Kindle.
Yeah.
And so the first time I went into the record, so basically the Akashic Records is like it's kind of like it's in the quantum realm in like the ethers or whatever, but it's
Okay.
essentially a database of our soul's journey across all lifetimes, across all timelines. It's basically like Google searching your soul is kind of
Oh,
how we would describe it. And it's really it's a beautiful and everybody has their own Akashic records, Akashic library and Akashic records. And so I was
okay.
reading, so I got this the book on Kindle and I started to just read it and I did the invocation in my head, just reading it, and I accidentally fell into my Akashic records and it was very dramatic and I was like, Wah! Actually,
So did
that felt like a dose of magic mushrooms, but like just from that, and I fell right into it, and it was like very intense and transformational. And so basically, long story short,
yeah.
I spent a lot of time in my own Akasha records, and then I started giving records readings for others. But it's like it's the most healing and most powerful psychic reading that one can get because it's your Akashic library. It's tapping
Right.
into the essence of you and answering all these questions. You know, what's my soul purpose? Why am I here? What lessons I come? What baggage do I have from past lives? Who are my spirit guides? It answers all this and much
Does
more.
it really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's very wild and amazing. And my other podcast, Into the Blue Channeling, is channeling messages via my Akashic records. If anyone's interested in that, but yes, so that's the fun story of how I discovered that. So that's kind of like another step in my spiritual awakening and like path of heart, you could describe it,
Oh,
towards where I
lovely.
am now.
So um, your life has changed a lot, then, hasn't it? A lot. What did you do before all of this
So
happened?
I yes, so I've had a career in academic publishing, and
Okay.
I was working in medical publishing in sales, and then I was in post sales client services support. And yeah, so when all of this happened, I was working on anatomy and physiology software, which obviously
Oh,
makes sense in terms of
yes.
my what was then my sideline, which was yoga,
Yeah.
right? So I'm a yoga teacher as well. I trained 13 years ago to become a yoga teacher. And actually, that there's a part of what I've done in terms of when I recovered from long COVID myself, is I had all this fire under my feet. That's like, okay, I could heal myself. So I was going to
Yeah.
try and help as many people out there heal themselves. And so that's when I
Yes.
started this yoga for long COVID class. on Zoom online, and so like I've used my yoga skills through this process to help others. I think ultimately I'm very altruistic in nature, and so I do everything I can to try and assist, to help as many people as possible,
Yeah,
essentially.
so you've got the caregiver or archetype then. So do you find yourself overgiving sometimes, or have
Oh,
you
yes.
managed
That's been a
to?
whole process. Yes.
Yeah,
That's been a whole process. And to be fair, you can talk about chronic fatigue and the types of people that end up in a chronic fatigue response.
they usually come.
And they tend to be type A
Yeah,
doers and also people pleasers
yeah,
and people that lack like good, healthy boundaries.
yes,
I had
yes,
all of these things going on.
yeah,
So I've done the work to try and care for myself first,
yes,
to put your oxygen mask first before you can help others, sort of thing. So
yeah,
I do have very healthy boundaries and very clear like structure around the amount of people I help in any week, and the amount of workload I take on to make
yeah,
sure that first and foremost I am a mum, right?
yes,
and
yeah,
and and that's my main role, and then everything else is kind of beyond that, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you did look back at your patterns, because I call those patterns, like your overgiving patterns. You did start to reassess all of those and make changes. And do you think that had an effect on how your body felt? Like when you
Yes.
started to put yourself first, do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean, basically through this very dramatic process where my body like completely shut down, I could do nothing other than try and keep my own self alive, for
Yeah.
a time. And yes, I definitely have learnt um a lot
Mm,
about how I have functioned prior. And yeah, there's a whole dynamic in terms of also toxic family members and
hmm.
deciding to cut those guys off for
Yes.
my highest good.
Yeah.
That's been a part of my healing process,
Yeah.
to take back control and be like, no, that's toxic and dysfunctional and no longer going to be a part of my life, and that sort of thing.
Yes. I can
um,
understand that.
right.
So you were saying, what's the biggest thing that you've learned about? Well, there's a lot by the sounds of things, isn't there? There's not just one big thing, it's a lot.
The biggest thing I've learned. That's a big question.
So,
I think the biggest thing I've learned is to stand in my own power
yeah.
and like discover my own power and my own strength, healing myself and also now healing others. Um, yeah, that's the biggest thing I've learned. But like it's come on is that has been built on, healing my nervous system,
Yeah.
coming back to myself, yeah, stopping the people pleasing. There's so many things that led to that, but I would say, yeah, like standing in my own power, and believing in myself,
Yeah.
yeah, is the biggest thing.
So what do you do to stay regulated now? What
So
practices do you use?
yeah, so I'm also a Reiki master, so I did train in Reiki and
Oh,
energy
did you?
healing, as well, part of this whole story, I suppose. That was more recent. Um, so I obviously I use meditation and pranayama and breath work, yoga, physical yoga, and also meditation is a form of yoga. And then Reiki, sending healing to myself. Um, but yeah, supporting the nervous system is kind of like a all day, everyday thing,
Yes.
right? Limiting my what I'm exposed to, what I consume. I don't
Yes.
really follow the news anymore. I don't really watch TV that much anymore.
Yeah.
I listen to music that is uplifting and positive, and and I'm on some social media, but I try and limit that as well to like
Yeah.
not. Yeah, like because all of this can put you out of regulation in terms of your nervous system, can't
Yeah.
it?
Yes. I've actually just been posting about that. Just I've been saying that you can't regulate when you're constantly under threat, and the world that we live in is constantly pushing you into a state of threat, isn't it? So the news, social media, family members, friends, workplaces, we actually we live in a dysregulated system. It's a
We
trauma
have
based system.
been.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we have been, but I think increasingly people are seeing that for what it is, and having firmer boundaries. Like, yeah, I'm not going to be troubled by the news. I'm not going to let that, it's a type of like energy vampirism, right? To like
yeah,
pull you away out of yourself into something else. The
into
more you
something else.
can, you just focus on you and what you can control. The
Yeah,
whole serenity prayer of it all, being
yeah,
being aware of letting go what you can't control and focusing what you can control, is a big part of it. But I feel very optimistic that a lot of people are more aware and supporting themselves, and things are evolving at the moment, I would say.
yeah.
Um,
I think slowly, slowly, but there's still a lot of people who are in that realm, let's call it a
yeah,
realm, in that system, and they still get quite triggered by us, by the people that are
right.
awake. I don't know if you've noticed that.
I've spent
Uh,
a lot of time in the Akashic Records asking questions around this topic, and what I have received is, there's the people that have chosen that as their path,
right.
and we can't change their mind.
No,
Like they
no.
have to, they're on their own journey and own
Hmm.
path. And there's a lot of people that, yeah, they're going to listen to things like this and be like, oh, that's ridiculous or whatever,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
it's almost like they're like there's people that are living like almost like in a parallel reality, like a parallel universe,
yeah,
to people that have become more aware and awake to the universe and all that is, right?
yeah, yeah. There
I
was
don't say this. I don't say this to be critical or anything like that.
no, no,
It's just
no,
like I think I've learned that again, it's like a case of things inside of your control and things outside of your control, and like you could run yourself ragged, trying to kind of like get
yeah,
those naysayers
yes,
to agree with you, and that's not a good use of your time, right?
no, no, no. And usually people just become more defiant anyway, don't they? If you try and oppose what their way of thinking anyway. So it's best to stick with your tribe, so to speak, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
and I've set up energetic boundaries, by the way. I'm very intentional with what I do, and I do set up boundaries energetically that are to only like attract and only be visible to people that get it. And so far,
yeah,
that's worked.
oh,
So long may that
lovely.
continue.
Yeah, long may that continue. So, what would you say to someone who is in the early confusing stages of awakening? Because it, it is, I mean, we saw an influx during COVID because that was a traumatic event for lots of people, and it's trauma that actually wakes your system up usually.
Mm.
Um, like the 5 stages that I explained to you earlier about the 5 stages of the nervous system thawing, I call it. So, what would you say to those that are just in the early stages?
I would say you're not alone. Please don't worry. Like everybody goes through like or you could call it the dark night of the soul, or call it
Yeah.
the void, where everything is like that, and like suddenly things are happening, and it's very bewildering and very confusing. And I've certainly been there. But there's help out there.
Yes.
You know, there's so many people, like you, like I, who are supporting people
Yeah.
with this journey. Like I literally, my spiritual wellness mentorship program, like the what it says when you go onto the website page, it says you are not alone. You know, we
Yeah.
understand, because we definitely do. And it's bizarre how, you know, when you're awakening and when you're tapping in to like the spirit side and all that is, and suddenly you realize that you're completely not alone. And it's paradoxical how not alone you actually are, and how connected to everything you actually are. But at the same time, paradoxically, you can feel like I've got no one in real life that gets it. Like suddenly it's very isolating and confusing for many
Yes, it
people,
is.
isn't
It
it?
is. Yeah. Very.
And
It can
yeah,
be very.
my compassion and heart goes out to everybody who's in the thick of it and going through, you know, a traumatic, intense, chaotic moment to get to this point. But yeah,
Yeah,
keep
it can
going.
be very it's very, well, it's brutal. That's how I'd explain it. It's brutal, especially when you're doing it on your own. And yeah, and if
And we're
you
in the Great Awakening right now. This year, I was told that 25 to 30% of those that are not awakened are awakening this year. So there's going to be
really
a huge, massive influx of people waking up. So yeah, you're definitely not alone.
no, no. So how many people do you think have already gone through it? And how many people?
Hmm. You know, I've never asked that question. I'm not sure. Because the thing is because a lot of people do it in isolation, and a lot of
Mhm.
people do it very quietly. Like you know, I experienced this through my podcasts and through this and that, like that they'll have like people like lurking that don't comment and don't like do it, but they're there, you know,
Yeah,
taking it all in, right?
yeah,
But a lot of people do it very quietly. So I think it's hard to gauge exactly how many people are kind of tapping in at this moment. But it's a good question, and maybe I'll ask the
yeah,
Akasha for the answer
yeah,
sometime
yeah,
soon.
yeah. So, do you think you'll carry on with your spiritual journey then, or yes?
Yes, this is a lifelong thing. You know, I'm on my path. I mean, I'm, you know, opening up to more and more all the time, and figuring out how to help more and more people all the time. So, like, it's a process. But yeah, there's no going back, only forwards
I
with
know
this. Like,
that's 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 part of the thing that I say within my framework. Once you get to a certain stage, there is no going back. You can't go back,
right.
can you?
There's
So
definitely moments where it slows down, and it's almost like, you know, you take like a bit of a like a breather, and you're like, okay, all right. You know,
mm,
there's definitely periods where things can be like we can just like really ground in and be like very much in the physical experience. But yeah, and then it kind of ramps up again, sort of thing. But yeah, there's definitely moments where it's a bit more chill.
yeah, yeah. So has your understanding of the awakening changed? Like, well, it has massively, hasn't it? And what do you think people misunderstand about it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when you're not awakened, you don't really understand what you don't understand,
No.
right? And you don't really know what you don't perceive. And I do like through my life, like I've had like now, well, like the perspective I have now, I look back at earlier things that happened to me in my life, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, I'm clairvoyant. Of course, I was seeing spirits in my room. Of course, I was seeing orbs and like this and that, and I was writing whole books which were like premonitionary. And I'm like, yeah, like of course, but like I didn't know, and you know, for the longest time, and I was raised Catholic, by the way. That's another
Oh, were you?
side. I was, I was. Or what I say is, attempts were made to raise me Catholic. I definitely resisted that quite firmly. I did not
Yeah.
vibe with it at all. But yeah, the overwhelming feeling was fear
Mm.
around, I was experiencing things, seeing like quote unquote ghosts, and it was freaking me out.
Yeah.
Like I was very fearful.
Yeah.
And now like I can go back to that and be like, there's nothing to fear, everything is okay. You just have abilities.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think a lot of it is awakening, is letting go of the fear of
Mm.
everything? I think that's what
Yeah.
awakening is really,
Well, if you
becoming
think
less.
about it, yeah, I mean, something that I teach is talking about different frequencies of emotion and different
Yeah.
states that you can, like your frequency is kind of like you're vibrating at. And the lowest frequencies do have fear, guilt, shame,
Yeah.
despair, that sort of thing. So that's the like the lowest frequencies. And yes, like when you're vibing at a lower ebb, then you do kind of get stuck in the fear. But like higher up is where is yeah, the actually the point of from going from lower, denser emotions and frequencies into higher states. Do you know what
Yeah.
that point is? The threshold point
No.
is curiosity.
Well, yeah. I've had that all my life.
Right? But if you're stuck, and like it's speaking to your listeners now, like if you're stuck feeling, melancholy, depressed, fearful, um, the trigger point to get out of that is actually curiosity. Is
Okay.
like, is there something better? Can
Oh,
things be better? And it's like having that kind of that hope, that kind of
yeah.
drive to kind of explore and kind of like get out of it. And also gratitude practice is a wonderful way, and like joy and gratitude, um unconditional love and things like that are kind of like the higher up states. But
Yeah.
gratitude practice, even like to fake it till you make it sort of thing, like with
Yeah.
gratitude, like just to start your day thinking like, what are 10 things I'm grateful for. Like even when I was bedbound in extreme pain, despairing that I couldn't care for my daughter who was a baby at the time, all of
Yeah.
this, I could still think of 10 things I was grateful for, right? I was grateful for the
Yeah.
sun rose that day. I was grateful for my
Yeah.
husband. I was grateful for the bed that I was
Yeah.
able to lie in, or this sort of
Yeah.
thing, right? But
Yeah.
if you can trigger and tap into a sense of gratitude, it really helps you to get out of all of those denser states. But yeah,
Yeah.
fear is, yeah, being stuck in fear is not a good place to
No,
be stuck.
it's not a good place. And that's what in the nervous system sense, it's called expansion, isn't it? Like when you get into the higher
Mm,
states,
mm,
it's you feel love, not necessarily for a person, you just feel love and happy and
mm,
joyful, and it's
mhm.
expansion, isn't it? It's a beautiful feeling, and it's when you're fully regulated, isn't it? Regardless of what's going on in your life, you can still have those feelings, and it's a nice thing to have. So, um, so what was there anything that you used to romanticize that you don't anymore, that you've changed completely about your mind about?
Mm. That's an interesting question. Romanticize. I'm not sure because I feel like where I am kind of vibrating at is like a state of like kind of amazement at the wonder of everything, that all that
Yeah,
is. It's very my lived experience is very multidimensional, interdimensional, very like beautiful and also deeply grounded at the same
yeah.
time. So I don't know if I can answer that question because my life is quite romantic.
But
Because I
it
vibe
has,
at the state of like love and light, right? Like
yeah,
we're all love. That's
yeah.
like, I don't, I'm not sure if I can think of anything. I don't know.
Mm. But it's changed your views on the systems that we live within, hasn't it? Like you were saying earlier about the medical, it's
Yes.
changed your mind in that respect.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. So like things like politics, things
Yes.
like traditional medicine,
Yeah.
even like universities and academia, which I was deeply
Yeah.
in. I've got two master's degrees. I worked in academic publishing, and yeah, a lot of these systems and structures that are deeply historically patriarchal,
Hmm.
political systems,
Yeah.
academic systems, healthcare systems, they all massively need reinvention.
Modernizing. It's
I want
too
to say
modern.
I want to say the word reform, but
Yeah.
that word has now
Yeah.
got
Oh,
a
yeah.
very specific
No.
connotations, which I do not
Yeah.
enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No.
like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
yeah, so all of the kind of older paradigms kind of feel less and less relevant and less like meaningful.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas I feel like we're moving towards, I've been told we're moving towards something very different, and much better, actually. You just need to kind of hang on there as we go through
Yes.
this
Yeah.
process.
So out of the trauma into healing, I think that's where we're going into. So did you connect more with nature as a part of your healing?
Yes, I am so deeply connected with nature. I can't show you because this is east facing, and I had to close my blind because it's like a really sunny, hot day today.
Yeah.
But the house that we bought last year backs onto woodlands,
Oh,
and
how
like and
lovely.
trees and woods are like
Yes.
my vibe, and I just absolutely love being in nature. I am, a tree hugger.
Yeah,
I
me
will
too.
send Reiki to the natural world, to Earth and Gaia. Yes, I absolutely love nature. Nature is so crucial and important. And actually, I did a course of microdosing. and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and it's a microdosing mushrooms, and it was through that, one of the main takeaways was how being in nature every day felt like absolutely a requirement, absolutely necessary.
Yes. Yeah. I
This
totally
is
believe
so
that. Yeah.
like as I was like awakening, and as I recovered from long COVID, I did this process. It was actually with an old yoga teacher, and that was really beautiful. Obviously, mushrooms are part of nature, right? They are,
They
all
are. Yeah.
connected, and all part of that. And
Yeah.
so like tapping into that kind of consciousness, um, yeah, is definitely what I do. And actually, a lot of my guided meditations, I have guided meditations that are freely available on Insight Timer app and elsewhere. A lot of them do use the natural world, the healing water, the healing woodlands, the kind of very grounding and earth-based experiences,
Yeah.
to support, yeah, nervous system and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they do regulate us because that we weren't born to live the life that we're living under fake lighting and phones going off every 5 minutes. We were born to be out there in nature, really, weren't we? So I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been a huge influx in people gravitating towards allotments, gardening, and that's since COVID. So I think there's a lot of people that have gone that way. We seem to have split off, don't we? There's the spiritual side, and then there's the gardening people, and then it's the people that have gone completely into conspiracy theories and politics, and we've all split off into different areas, but hopefully we'll come back together. Do you think? Do you think
Yeah,
that's a
I would say I
possibility?
would wager that the people into gardening are also spiritual people.
Yeah, they are slightly.
And actually, some conspiracy theories, particularly around like the "are we alone in the universe" type topic, I think it's also a spiritual path.
Yeah, yeah, like Dolores Cannon and people like that, and yeah, I've seen all of those.
I
So
do.
yeah.
I've
So is
actually
there?
spoken to her on my
Have,
podcast.
have you?
To be very
I'm going,
frank and open, yes.
I'm going to have to look up your podcast, I think. So, is there anything else that you'd like to add around the
Yeah.
body side of it?
The body
Like to do
side.
with the yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting topic, this podcast, and I do think, obviously we're here in a physical body having a human experience, but we are
yeah,
incarnated souls and we are, spirits having a human experience. But in that human experience, we do need to like support our bodies and work with them and be
yeah,
grounded. It's interesting because the more grounded you are, the more you can expand into the upper
yeah.
chakras, as we would say in yoga and Reiki. Um, but yeah, it's interesting how through yoga, through chronic illness, through microdosing and whatever else, I've become more spiritually open and aware, but it's all these aspects are very physical, human, bodily aspects, aren't they?
They've brought you back into your body. That basically, I
Yeah,
think, haven't they?
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And like in I'm embodying my highest timeline and my sole purpose for this lifetime,
Oh,
um, which is to be a conduit for healing. So yeah, like yeah, I'll share as well. So I do a great many things. I do Reiki once a month online
yeah.
for groups. Next one's next week, but I don't know when this is going out. And I also support people one-to-one with Akashic Records readings, and then I have my spiritual mentorship program, which is a 90-day container to really support people. I also have the healing and wellness mentorship as well, which supports people get out of chronic health conditions that are stuck in all of that. So I just want to mention
So
anyone
you're doing a
interested.
lot then, yeah,
Yeah, and then I
yeah,
have the two podcasts as well, the Hope
yeah.
podcast and the Into the Blue channeling podcast. So there's something for everybody.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for joining me today and sharing
Yes.
your experience. It's been
Thank
lovely
you. Yeah,
to
thanks for
speak with
inviting
you.
me, and it's lovely
Yeah,
to be the first guest of
yeah.
this wonderful new podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.